What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I wanna speak on some recent comments that Doc Rivers made about Google him, and these comments came. I think he made these comments a while ago, and so they're just coming out. And I think the reason why they're just coming out is I think a lot of people are really ready for Doc Rivers to leave the Milwaukee Bucks. People thought that Doc Rivers was the missing piece to be able to get Milwaukee back to a championship, and a lot of people think that he's underachieved. And some people, as a matter of fact, was not even they didn't think Doc Rivers was the right coach to bring into Milwaukee. They thought, people have always thought that Doc Rivers was, as a coach, was an underachiever, right? But these comments that just came out of a speech that Doc Rivers gave a while ago, telling players to Google him and check his record and stuff like that, didn't really age well. And so they was talking about this on a Odd Couple, Calvin Washington, Rob Parker, and they're basically saying that because of the players that Doc Rivers had over the years, that he basically, in their opinion, is an underachiever. So, with that being said, man, I'm gonna play the audio from the show, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna give some of my input.
Along with that, I was going to say, Rob G, can you Google it? That's all we want to know.
Google that song?
Yeah, Google that song. Well,
I'll Google a lot of things today.
Right.
One of them being the resume of one Glenn Doc Rivers.
I like what you
See,
did
Rob,
there.
he threw the law. I saw him coming
I
down
like
the
what
fast
you
break.
It was like Chris Paul to Blake Griffin.
I was Blake Griffin.
Except he didn't win nothing.
That's a good point. Speaking of Glenn Rivers, he also coached that team and didn't win nothing. Doc Rivers, in case you guys missed it, was part of a long-form expose by ESPN today, where they discussed everything that's gone wrong with the Milwaukee Bucks this season, even going back to last season. There's a lot of turmoil. Giannis, will he or won't he go? The front office and him are at odds. The roster is buried of talent. Doc Rivers is doing Doc Rivers things. And one of the things that Shams Charania included in his story, got to make sure I stress this point, spoke to 6 people who were in the room at the time this happened. Not one, not two, another. 6 people. So, everybody was upset about what Doc Rivers said during a team meeting that they had earlier this year. According to Shams, at a March 1 team meeting, Doc Rivers told his players to Google him and look up his resume. And according to Shams, the exact quote he used was, "I took teams to the playoffs and to the championship that weren't supposed to. I thought this was one of them. Either you're with us or you're against us."
If I gotta Google your resume like that, and you're talking to me like that and saying it with your chest, you ain't all that. I ain't gotta Google Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, some of the greats, Greg Popovich. You know why? Because I know. And if I gotta Google, if you Google me, are you kidding me? All right, so then let's take it the next step further. Well, let's actually Google him, okay? Let's do that. He is the only coach in league history, Rob Parker, to blow multiple 3-1 leads in the postseason. I ain't done Googling. His teams have also blown 5 3-2 leads, 1 2-0 lead, and has lost Game 7 at home 4 different times.
That's brutal. I gotta admit, that's brutal. But now I will say, in Doc Rivers' defense, though, I think that maybe he was giving that speech. He was just trying to not really be arrogant, but he's just trying to, maybe just trying to motivate these guys and rally the troops, right? What else do you want Doc Rivers to say in that situation?
So you're talking about Google me. We did. And one of those things you should have said, don't Google me, because then we can at least, oh man, maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought, or maybe, you know what, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he was better than I thought he was. Then you hit Google and you say, well, you know what? No, I'm not crazy. What team did he have, Rob Parker, that they took far that we didn't expect anything from? Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Rondo.
I have no idea what team that might be.
Was supposed to be in those title games. You could argue should have won maybe one more. Those Clipper teams Where like we talk about all the time, where it's sexy picks. Everybody was picking every year for about 4 or 5 years. Well, this is the year they get it done. This is the year they get it done.
Right. Because
they should have.
Because they had a squad.
Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Jamal Crawford, J.J. Redick. And then depending on the era, Matt Barnes is a good defensive player, small forward. Batum, all these guys. So you can say they underachieved. You could have had.
Let me just say this too, like about being a head coach and being a leader in that type of situation. You know, it's more so about trying to get those guys like your team to trust you and trust you to a point where they're almost like willing to run through a brick wall for you, right? That they believe in everything you're saying. You want to get these guys to play above themselves and to really, you want to be able to motivate these guys. So maybe that statement didn't go over very well when he said, Google me. You know, like I said, you want guys to buy into your system. You want to earn their trust. And what you did a lot of times in the past, unless you are somebody like a Pat Riley or you someone like Phil Jackson, your record and your resume in most cases won't even really mean that much, especially to younger players. Like if you've been coaching for a long time, just imagine like if Phil Jackson came back to coaching or Pat Riley came back to coaching. The last time those guys coached in the league, you know, most of these players probably wasn't even born. So you know, like Phil Jackson wouldn't be able to say Google me or check my record or anything like that. He'll be starting over from scratch basically, and basically just trying to, you know, earn these guys' trust and their respect and trying to get these guys to buy into his program. And that's what it is as a head coach, is to get these guys to trust you and buy into your program and, you know, and try to get the best out of them. So statements like that, especially if you can't maintain or have success consistently, whereas though these guys could know without Googling you, then those kind of statements don't age well.
Duncan, if you let his daddy on the plane, or his girlfriend on the plane.
Yeah, his wife
or whoever, his lady.
Yeah, his lady.
Come on, Doc had a fine career. Like nothing you had fine. But let's not elevate it. And you and I already talked about him being in the Hall of Fame is crazy. So to say Google me and then I will Google you and I see all of this, stop it. And this has been an underachieving team. Look at.
And see, that's why I said, you know, like no matter what a coach has done in the past, the coach has a job now. So it's not a player's place to Google a coach. So as a coach and as a leader, why would you say Google me or check my record? You know, because people always, it's just not, as a player, it's your job as a player to perform the best you can. You know, sometimes you don't have a great coach. Sometimes you do have a great coach, but as a player, you want to make the best out of the situation. If you Google the coach and you find that his record is not what you think it should be, that's still not an excuse for you as a player to not play. You know, you can't use that as an excuse. So for the coach and the player, like I said, it's about building trust and having a situation or a program that everybody can buy into.
Players he had: Tracy McGrady, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rondo, Ray Allen, Chris Paul, Blake, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, Grant Hill. One ring out of all that, Rob G? Stop it.
I think what you said earlier is probably the best point. That if you have to tell people to Google you, you are not one of those guys. Because it's just the idea that you would have to say that. I think teams make a big mistake. I'm going to say this as someone who's covered sports for a long time. Before you get into the building of any team, everybody should have mandatory sit down, watch this video, and tell people who everybody is. And you know what I mean? And why they're in the building. I don't understand. Like, you've had, like, I told you before, where Shaq was asking, who was it? Oh, my God, I just forgot.
What position? What
the coach? He was a coach who won a championship with with Seattle. He passed away. Oh my God, I'm just forgetting. But my point is, I'll get his name.
Wilkins.
Lenny Wilkins.
Yeah.
He asked Lenny Wilkins once, "Hey, Coach, you know a lot about basketball. Did you ever play? Lenny Wilkens is on the
Yeah.
top 50
Yes.
of all time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that shouldn't.
Right. And so I lost my place right there. But that's why I said that, sometimes, and Lenny Wilkens was he was a great basketball player back in the day. I think Lenny Wilkens played like in the 50s or the 60s. Lenny Wilkens coached, I remember him coaching the Atlanta Hawks for a while. But when Lenny Wilkens coached the Atlanta Hawks, the guys he was coaching they didn't get to see him play in the 60s, right? Or, I'm sorry, maybe even the 70s, Lenny Wilkens. I think it was the 60s. But those guys who was playing for Lenny Wilkens and they was playing in the late 80s and the 90s, they didn't know Lenny Wilkens from playing basketball. So when you get a new group of kids, young kids, guys in their early 20s, early to mid 20s, they don't know what your record is. All they know is an owner or general manager hired this guy as a coach. They naturally assume that as you the coach, you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about. So what you have to do is just take, like I said, and just establish some trust with these guys and a relationship with these guys, and then lead them to a victory. That is so statements like check my record, Google me, and all that stuff, man. That stuff don't age well, because young people and kids will look for reasons not to follow you, and you don't want to hand them that. You definitely don't want to give them a reason not to follow you or not to believe in you. And I mean, it go the same for parents. Like parents, if you raising your kids, you can't tell the kids about all the mistakes that you have made as when you was growing up. The kids got to have they got to kind of put you on a pedestal in order and give them something to believe in, something to shoot for, even though you may, as a perfect, has been you wasn't perfect as a person, but parents put on this, and I didn't understand it when I was a kid, but when you become a parent, you gotta sometimes, like, you gotta because all parents were not perfect when they was kids, so you gotta kind of, in order to get your kids to perform better than what you did when you was growing up, you gotta sometimes you gotta leave some information out. And so, yeah, don't be sending these guys to especially in this day and age, that you don't want nobody Googling you. So that's my thoughts on it. But make sure to, man, like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'm gonna check you all out in the next video. Peace.